for various startups. So they're here with us for the next hour to take any questions you may have in terms of how you go about your people, whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, perhaps how much to pay them. When do you decide that it's the right time to get these people on board? Maybe how you interview them, how do you build your company culture, and all that jazz. This is the place to be for the next 55 minutes. There are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy because it's a learning curve for us all. Now, the way this works, it's quite straightforward. We're going to have some quick introductions. Then we'll have a do and a don't from each of the panelists in terms of early stage talent. And then we'll start taking questions from yourselves in the audience. Now, for those of you that are on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and now Twitter/X, this is an opportunity to join us live. But unfortunately, we are unable to monitor your questions live. So you can tune in, you can listen, but if you do want to ask questions and gain more value from this, you'll have to join us on Microsoft Teams. There are links on all of those live streams, but if you can't find them, then the quickest thing to do is to go onto our website, startuptoscaleup.club. So again, go to startuptoscaleup.club. You scroll down a little bit, you'll find today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 176. So just scroll down, find Startup Talent Q&A 176. And then you will be able to click join. It's a quick registration on Luma. That then gives you, or once you're there and once you've registered, you'll find today's link. And through that link, then you can tune in to our call. Now, being audio only, it's absolutely beautiful because it means you can join us from anywhere via any platform or device. And it doesn't matter whether you're walking your dog in Surrey, or perhaps cooking lunch in Liverpool, or working from a shared office in London, or maybe changing baby nappies in Peterborough. This is the place where anyone can come and join, especially being on audio only. Now, the way it works is that once you've made it onto our Microsoft Teams call, all you have to do is drop your question in the chat. We then give you the mic, you introduce yourself, and fire away with your question. Again, there are no right or wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all, and we're here to help you with whatever questions you have on talent, so finding and keeping the right people for your startup business. If, by the way, your questions are not related to talent and hiring, please save them for the other conversations we run. On Mondays, it's talent. On Tuesdays, product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. And Thursdays, it's fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of them via our website, startuptoscaleup.club. So again, startuptoscaleup.club. And once you've gone to our site, you can actually even join our WhatsApp community. We've got some amazing groups of founders, investors, operators, and of course, our second to none mentors/panelists. So without further ado, we're going to get started with some introductions, as I said, and then we will go on to a do and a don't from the amazing panelists. So my name's Anton Cole. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups normally right after they get investment. I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with a few other startups and some accelerators, and help some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessments. And I guess we can now go on to Rosie, and then Valerie, and then Margaret. Please take it away, ladies.
Thanks, Anton. Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me here today. My name is Rosie Hewitt. I'm founder and CEO of Rosie's People. We are a global leadership HR and business operations consultancy. We assist all manners of businesses across various sectors with everything HR people related, as well as business ops and leadership. So from your deciding who to hire, how to hire, where to hire, assisting with the hire, matching you with the right candidates, as well as helping to plan your HR strategy, dealing with performance improvement, various training, coaching, leadership sessions, you name it. We like to be involved and like to help. So please get in touch, rosiespeople.com.
Lovely. So in a very similar fashion to Rosie, I'm Valerie Mann, fractional CPO. Thank you, and hello everyone. After 30 years of in-house HR leadership in all sorts of businesses, from scale up to enterprise, internationally, going through IPO, M&A, purchases, and organic transformation and expansion. I have just very recently launched as a fractional CPO and coach, and my goal really is to help leaders from all sorts of stages in their development, where they need it, when they need it, and how they need it on everything HR and AI. So if you need any advice on transformation, change, whether tech or people related, this is where I come and help. And I'm delighted to be here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Margaret Bui. I have been working in the talent space for 2 decades, primarily in recruitment. I've worked as an internal recruiter for many tech companies, both startups, Series A, B, C, and D, and also large tech companies such as VMware or Expedia. And I've hired very internationally across all different levels for all different positions, including product, engineering, sales, marketing, finance, etc., across many geographies. And apart from that, I do interview, coaching and training, and I'll be happy to help with anything related to hiring and interviewing in particular.
This panel is on fire. Thank you very much for that, ladies. Ladies, how about we get on to a do and a don't from each of you, and let's not use the same logic for both, please. What is important to you when it comes to a startup's journey in terms of talent, let's say from literally day one, even perhaps before the company has been incorporated, or later for that matter? What is one do and one don't that you think it's important? Let's start with Margaret, then Rosie, and then Valerie, please.
Okay, so one do would be to make your recruitment process fast, human, and transparent. You know, speed and communication are your superpowers as a startup, so you want to use them to your advantage. And in what that means in practice is that give every candidate a clear timeline. So, for example, you will hear from us within 48 hours after each interview. I would say ideally no more than 3 to 4 interview stages. So maybe like a founder or recruiter screen, some kind of a skills case, culture and team chat, and maybe a reference check. And also personalize your communication. So even a short friendly note after the interview builds connection and trust. You know, the best candidates, they move fast, they often have multiple offers. So when you have, and I've seen so many companies losing good candidates because they just take too long. So a structured but agile process that signals that your company is organized and respectful. So that's a huge differentiator against companies that are, disorganized or unresponsive. And in terms of don'ts, I would say don't hire reactively just to relieve pressure. Like when you are stretched thin, it could be very tempting to bring in someone, like anyone, but reactive hires almost always cost more time and morale later. So before opening a role, just ask yourself, what problem will this person solve? How will we know we've succeeded in 6 months? And if you're not sure, just hire a contractor or advisor short term to validate the need, So avoid defaulting to a full-time hire when a fractional or outsourced help could bridge that gap. So when you have a 10-person startup or even fewer people, that mishire can delay progress for months. So yeah, so basically hire a contractor or an advisor if you're not sure this person will be needed full time.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Rosie?
Thanks, Anton. I would say your early stages, it's really important to be honest with yourself about what skills you have and what skills you don't have, to make sure that you're actually hiring for what's missing and not what you think you might need. It's important that you, especially in the early stages, pay attention to candidates that have more than one skill to offer. Because that could actually help you a lot in the long term. If you're thinking strategically and hiring strategically, then those people could potentially grow with you, and help to actually move your business forward quicker. So look at your job requirements, role requirements. Do you actually need that role? Why do you need that role? So really ask yourself those questions before you hire. I would say my don't would be, if you've joined the show before, I tend to say this quite often, and that because it's very important, especially when you're a startup. Be honest with people. Don't lie to your candidates. Don't promise things that you don't intend to put in writing. Don't promise things that you don't intend to deliver. Don't promise things that are not possible. Be realistic with people. Be clear with people what you can offer. If you don't have enough money to give to them at that stage, make it clear, I'm offering you more equity because we don't have enough salary to give you what you're looking for, but we hope you can still be willing to join us and help to make this equity into something tangible in the future. So just that honesty piece. Don't lie to people. Be very clear about what's on offer, your expectations, and make sure you're hiring people that you actually need their skills at that time and could potentially offer more than just what you need at that time. People with multi skills are great for startups.
I'll complete on that then. In those, so in terms of dues, I think what would be really important from the beginning is to spend that extra bit of time thinking about the why, and why would anybody join you at this stage. So this is not just about the skills and not just about the compensation, but really think about your proposition at this stage. Of course, knowing that it will evolve, and that's what you've got. That's what you've got in mind, and that's what you're gunning for. But ultimately, just take that little bit of a step back and define your value proposition for those early joiners. And I think I would completely agree with Rosie and Margaret in terms of those. Just don't throw people at the problem, and really think creatively, as both Margaret and Rosie were talking about, in terms of the skills that you need today, but also the skills that might evolve tomorrow. So I would say don't just hire for the skills, hire also for the mindset and the curiosity and the energy and the need and the want that people have to develop themselves as they grow in their role. And so I would say don't just hire for the what, also hire for the how and the who, which will be important in sustaining you as your business evolves.
Well, thank you very much for that, ladies. Really appreciate your do's and don'ts. Just a quick reset of the conversation. This is Startup Talent Q&A 176. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you have in that talent journey of yours, whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, maybe how to decide which role you should hire first, what sort of skills and experience they need to have, how do you interview them, where do you go to find them, how much should you offer to pay them. Perhaps you want to know how to build your company culture, how to put in place a talent management system, and all that jazz. This is the place to ask it. There are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. For those of you that are on the Microsoft Teams call, all you have to do is drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, you introduce yourself, and then fire away with whatever question you have put in the chat. Now, for those that are on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter/X, please bear in mind that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask us anything, you'll have to come and join us here on Microsoft Teams. Being audio only means that it's easy for you to join via any platform or device. You either click on the links that we've shared on those live streams or simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. So again, the website, it's startuptoscaleup.club. You scroll down a little bit, you'll find today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 176. Click join. It's a quick registration on Luma, and there you'll find the link to join us here on Microsoft Teams. And again, if your questions are not on talent, please save them for the other events we run. Mondays, obviously, as you can see today, it's talent, but then Tuesdays is product and tech. Wednesdays, it's growth. Thursdays, it's fundraising. Second Friday of each month, it's UK Startup Law. And third Friday of each month, it's UK Startup Finances. All from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And again, you can register to any future session via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And now we'll go on to our first question. I'll put that in the chat, but I'll read it out loud for the live streams. And obviously the panelists here, they can refer to it if you like. And speaking of panelists, we've had about 290,000 people tune in to our sessions in about 4.5 years. And obviously, none of that would have happened without people like Rosie, Margaret, and Valerie. So if you ladies would like to drop your LinkedIn URLs in the chat and maybe a brief sentence about what your startup focus is, that would be great. But apart from that, let's start with Margaret. Sorry, let's start with Rosie, then Margaret, and last but not least, Valerie. What would you do to help this startup? So he says, I'm the senior co-founder of a pre-seed environmental tech startup in Lancaster, where we develop air quality sensors for urban monitoring. We're seeing increased demand for flexible working from our small team of engineers and field technicians. Given the hybrid nature of our work, how can we structure a part-time HR advisor role to create a flexible work policy that balances remote work with necessary on-site activities? Also, what low-cost tools or processes could we implement to maintain productivity and accountability while supporting our team's preference for flexibility? Quite a question. You say you're pre-seeds. I'm not sure at what stage you are, because I've looked them up on LinkedIn, Rosie, and I can only find 2 people associated with that. So I'm assuming the engineers and the other people are either LinkedIn shy or perhaps they've recently started. I'm not sure they even need a HR advisor, to be honest with you, at this time anyway, although it does help. But tell you what, I am going to wash my hands on this for now and pass it over to you ladies. So Rosie, Margaret, and then Valerie, please, if we can keep it to about a minute each.
Thanks, Anton. I mean, I would presume that they would only be asking if they already have an HR advisor. Chances are they're probably bigger than what you see on LinkedIn. I know that quite a few startups tend to have people that are not, who haven't updated their LinkedIn to show that they're working there, if you see what I mean, but they're already there. So it's possible. I would say that for a team that mixes engineers and field technicians, it would probably be good to build a flexible working approach that reflects the actual nature of the work rather than a one-size policy, because it doesn't sound like that's going to work. I would probably structure the HR advisor role around maybe 3 priorities, which would be mapping role requirements, setting clear expectations, and then outcome-based accountability. So because some tasks can be done remotely, documentation, planning, data analysis, but field analysis, and those types of things, they can't. So they would need to create a matrix, which tasks require on-site presence, which can be done anywhere, and which depend on project phases. Then that could be used to build out the policy that could become the backbone of the policy, if you like. And then setting the clear expectations would be, you know, instead of policing hours, we look at core collaboration windows, response time guidelines and requirements for on-site days for specific roles. Some engineers may need occasional lab days. Field technicians might need, you know, a rota type schedule. You know, the goal would be structure without rigidity. And I think that the HR advisor's role would be to help shift performance conversations from time spent to results delivered, which is crucial in a hybrid team. Now I'm mindful that we only have 1 minute each. So tools, Trello, Slack, Google Docs, Google Calendars. There's other tools that are coming out now. I believe that people are using AI-driven tools that people are using to collaborate more effectively. I'm sure that they'll, you know, a quick Google search will probably find you a lot that might be more suited. Because I don't know what your team consists of, it would be better to do a search that's aligned with how big your team is, etc. So it would be a combination of a part-time HR advisor who builds the role-specific flexibility framework, but simple tools that give transparency and accountability, and of course, giving that flexibility and operational control without overwhelming a small team. Probably did more than a minute, but yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I'm not sure I have a lot more to add here, but yes, for a hybrid team like yours, the most effective way to structure a part-time HR advisor is just to make the role very focused. They don't need to run HR operations. They just need to be able to help you create a flexible framework that's fair, that's consistent, and that's aligned with the realities of engineering and field work. So this person could create like a short, flexible working policy, define, you know, which tasks must be done on site versus remotely, setting expectations around availability and communication, and also supporting managers with any individual requests. I mean, there's other things that this person could be doing, but in general, in early stage startups, HR really doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to provide some clarity. And on the productivity side, I completely agree. Like there are plenty of low-cost tools. And, you know, simple weekly goals and deliverables document. It could be a short Monday stand-up and Friday check-in. It could be a shared tracker on Notion, Trello, Google Sheets. You know, that's all potentially that you need to keep everyone aligned. And for technicians and on-site staff, you can just use basic scheduling tools like Google Calendar or When I Work to coordinate field days. So that really should be enough for a company of this size.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think maybe a couple of things to add would be, well, first of all, if you haven't got a part-time HR advisor, don't hire one just for this. I think it would be important to understand what else you need help for, and really, I would just start simple and use any AI tool like Gemini or ChatGPT, whichever you use, which we will able to help you with that exact question as a good start. But beyond that, I would think about, you mentioned you have engineers, and that's great. But I also would think about any other employees you have. So with both Rosie and Margaret talked about the fairness aspect and the consistency aspect. Whatever you do, and you can have different policies, it's important to be extremely transparent about it and explain why. Why would this group of people be any different to the other? Because you can create a lot of friction very quickly. So it's okay to have different policies, but what will justify this? So in this case, it could well be, screen-based people are most productive at home, and it's okay. And say, for instance, salespeople, as an example, might be more productive in an office, working together and sharing commercial knowledge. Whichever way, I think that's an important part. And then the next thing around productivity, engineering is probably the easiest group to check on and to have systems to measure productivity, especially if you work in an agile way, and you will have results and outcomes-based work. So as long as you're clear on, as you know, as Rosie and Margaret said, as long as you're clear on what you want people to do and what they have to do, and you empower them to do this, and the results are there, then that really is what matters. And if the results are not there, then that is your calibration for whether this is working or not.
Well, thank you very much for that, ladies. We have now lost Rosie because she needed to drop off at the half an hour. So, Margaret, Valerie, I'm afraid you're stuck with me now for the next half an hour. We will go on to our next question. I'll read this out loud, and then obviously you two ladies can refer to it in the chat if you'd like to. And the others, if you're here on Microsoft Teams, feel free to drop your question in the chat. Anything to do with startup talent, and then we'll give you the mic. If you're on the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, please remember that we can't monitor your questions there live, so you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, which means you can join by any platform or device. Simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. So again, it's startuptoscaleup.club. You'll scroll down a little bit. You'll find today's session, Startup Talent Q&A 176. Click join, quick registration on Luma, and there you'll find our link. So the next question is, I'm one of 3 co-founders of a biotech startup in Worcester, hoping to raise Series A in the new year, focused on creating sustainable alternatives to synthetic pesticides. I'm working with a diverse team that includes co-founders, fractional marketing consultants, and scientific advisors. With limited resources, what practical steps can we take to formalize each role and clarify responsibilities to avoid overlap and conflicts? Additionally, how can we implement fair compensation and equity structures that reflect the varied contributions whilst maintaining a lean budget? Jesus, that's another loaded question. I've worked and been a talent partner to startups that when I got there, they had either 41 or 47 people. I can't remember now. I think that was the highest I've seen without having anybody that was focused on HR or talent management and so on. But I've also seen the ones that had a talent person from maybe employee number 4 or 5. You need to have it as early as possible. That would be my idea, but again, not too early. Let's hear what Margaret's got to say on that, and then Valerie, and then maybe I can add a bit as well.
Yeah, so because I don't have, am I unmuted? Okay, I am unmuted.
We can hear, we can hear, we can hear.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so firstly, in terms of formalizing each role and clarify responsibilities, a simple way, I mean, first you want to make like roles very explicit. So a simple way could be to do just like a 1-page role charter for every contributor, you know, so like each of those should have like 3 things, you know, what are the responsibilities, what's the decision-making authority, and what are the actual outcomes that they are responsible for. You know, it doesn't have to be corporate or heavy, just a clarity around like who owns what, so you avoid duplications or gaps. So I would just basically have like literally 1 page, you know, you could have on 1 page for each role, you could have what's the purpose, like 1 sentence on why the role actually exists, you know, what are the maybe top 3 responsibilities, so what are the core things that they own, what can they decide without approval, so what are the decision rights. And I would definitely have something around the output, you know, what are the weekly or monthly deliverables. And also, instead of just like listing activities, like, you know, instead of saying help with marketing, you want to identify who owns each outcome. So for example, owns go-to-market messaging for any material related to commercial storytelling, right? So like outcomes-based ownership, I think that will prevent overlap. And also for a small team, you might want to define what they don't own, you know, like what does this role doesn't cover or doesn't own. And also decision making, that's often where the conflicts happen, you know. So maybe just have like a, you know, like a simple rule, you know, one like what the person can decide alone, you know, what they can recommend and you approve, and maybe what they provide input, but someone else decides. So that's what I would do as well. And also maybe you can tie contributions to time or milestones, so that will help you manage advisors and fractional partners. So for example, 4 hours per week focused on X deliverables. So that's what I'll do. In terms of the compensation, to be honest, I don't really I wouldn't be able to advise related to equity in particular. I know that typically it's a 4-year vesting and 1-year cliff, but honestly I would not really have enough information because I was not responsible for that. But I would just say that for consultants and advisors, you just want to decide whether the contribution is time-based or milestone-based, and then you tie equity or fees to that. But yeah, I'll let others expand on that.
Thank you,
So
Margaret. Yes, Valerie.
yeah, I think so all good points really from Margaret. Agree on the documentation. I think a very easy and quick way, and again I'll talk about AI here, is absolutely have a one-pager from everyone, but I would also start with what it is that you want. So what are your objectives? What are you trying to achieve, depending on your cycle as well, and what is it that you think you need, and the key results that you need to have, so objectives and key results, and then marry that up. Ask everybody to do that one pager as Margaret suggested, but then the quickest way of bringing that together and finding out if you have conflicts or overlaps is to use say a notebook, or if you use Google, so in Gemini you have the LM notebook, which helps you bring and contrast all your documents, and then give you some suggestions. Just use Gemini or ChatGPT and upload all these one pages and ask ChatGPT to do the work for you. And with a few good prompts, that should really at least help you 75% of the way, and then finish the 25% remaining with bringing the team together. Again, depending on how many people are working with you, there's if possible have your let's say a kickoff day for next year, at least one or kick off a couple of hours that will help align everyone. So I think Margaret had given a lot already. I hope that helps synthesize the exercise and gain you time there. Now on compensation and equity structures, again, a bit of research goes a long way, and you can find a lot online. You can use for instance, Pave as a tool, and if you can feed the information you already have in terms of compensation, Pave can help you with your benchmarking or online, as long as you're happy to share your information. And otherwise, if you need a bit more advice, and then there's nothing like a few hours of from an expert, from an advisor, who will look at what you're trying to achieve and will then advise on what the best structures are accordingly. And if you need help with that, I know quite a few people who can do that. So happy to get in touch and direct you in the right way.
Thank you very much for that, ladies. Here's what I would do here. If you can, and if you know somebody that you know they're good, hire a fractional HR person that has dealt with similar stuff, and agree with them so that they spend a maximum of half a day per family. So in the sense that if you want to get those sorted for the marketing team, they're going to spend about half a day putting those things in place. And if it's the salespeople, again, about half a day for each. That's somebody who's good. What you can do is go a little bit beyond, and this good person that you find, tell them you are going to, if they want to, that is obviously, keep them on a retainer 1 or 2 days per month or per week, or again, it depends on the need you have. And try and find somebody who may also be open to project based. So you keep them on a retainer, you pay them XYZ, but if the need arises, somebody who can maybe find time, not exactly on the day that you want, maybe, but who is flexible to then say, you know what, because you just got this project coming up, or this funding that you just got, or whatever it is, I'm going to come and work that for 3 weeks full time. So that's what I would focus on. If you don't know somebody like that, then might be good to reach out to as many founders or companies similar to yours, but who are much more mature than your company is, and see what they've done to work on this and to deal with this. And you'd be surprised how many people would be open to meet you for a drink or a coffee, or maybe have a video call, and then they can share some of those templates. They might even put you in touch with somebody that can actually come in as a fractional and all that jazz. Personally, that's what I would focus, rather than just kind of guess and try and do the guesswork. Or again, this is an assumption, but I'm assuming at some point you'll need to, if you haven't already done that, you probably actually have. It's very likely you have. Go to an agency, go to a recruitment agency. And if you pick a decent one, for giving them business, they should be able to also help you put in place some of the stuff that you mentioned. Now, in terms of contributions, again, that's something that you would need to ask for help. But what I would do here, in terms of compensation, rather, I would put in a pool where it's called equity share pool, whatever it is, and then again, that needs to be a bit detailed, so I can't really give you generic advice on that, if that makes sense. But you definitely want to have it tied to the Cliff Invest that Margaret mentioned, and then maybe even have a incremental where whether they stay there for X amount of time, that might double, or whatever it is, or if they reach whatever milestones. So then you want to look at that. But you definitely need to speak to somebody who's dealt with this. And this is one of those things that I'm not going to give you advice on how much to have that talent pool, because again, it depends where you are and what you're trying to do. But maybe next time you can try and reach us, come here live and interactively, and we can see what we can do in terms of back and forth. Right here, I think we can now go on to another question. All right, so bear with me. By the way, since we're here, then I guess a quick reminder, this is Startup Talent Q&A. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have in your talent journey. So if you do want to ask us anything, please drop your question in the chat here on Microsoft Teams. We'll give you the mic, introduce yourself, and then fire away with whatever question you have. There are no wrong questions and no need to be shy, because it's a learning curve for us all. Now, if you are on the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, or actually now I think we're also on Twitter, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask us anything, you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. The quickest way to do that is to go to our website, startup2scaleup.club. You scroll down a little bit, you'll find today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 176. You click join. It's a quick registration on Luma, and there you'll find the link for Microsoft Teams. Now, let's go on to the next question. Again, I'll put that in the chat for the ladies to refer to. This is okay. I'm leading a seed stage agri-tech startup in Belfast that develops automated crop monitoring drones for small farms. As our team expands, we're hiring a full-time head of operations to manage both field staff and technical engineers. What steps can we take to equip this new leader with tools for resolving team conflicts, especially given the diverse backgrounds and work styles within our team? Furthermore, how can we create a feedback system that allows employees to voice concerns constructively, helping prevent conflicts from escalating? Maybe we can start with Valerie on this, and then we'll move on to Margaret. What would you do here, Valerie?
Well, first of all, I guess if you're in the process of hiring this head of operations, I would make sure that they are equipped with the experience and knowledge and tools to resolve these team conflicts, and I would make that as a very firm and important part of your selection process and checks, and ask them this, as this is a key requirement and a key need for your business and in this role. I would make that front and put that at the front of your checks and your questions. And then in terms of then setting them up for success, I would really do a quick analysis and ask I don't know what you use today, but maybe ask each member of your team to complete a prep profile for an intro profile for this leader, and obviously on the assumption that they know you're hiring for this position, then a quick, a nice and easy way to do this would be to have a personal profile for each person, asking them the same question if you haven't got that already. So again, relating to what's important for their work together and for their work for this leader. So what's their background? How do they like to communicate? What are their aspirations? What's important to them, and how they like to work. And there's various cool questions that you can ask to at least get ready for this leader, and for this leader to know what's coming. Now, in terms of team conflicts, I think not knowing really what the issues are today, and with every conflict situation or potential conflict situation, having as much information and giving as much time as possible to this new hire to spend with each person and the team, and have as much knowledge as possible about the team is key. So that's one aspect of the question. And then in terms of feedback system, there are so many systems that you can use. I think, again, generally speaking, if you want to prevent conflict, if you want to start at source, you need to make sure that is embedded in your culture, that every leader role model this. So before even a system, make sure that is one core value of who you are, and that anybody working in your business needs to have. And preventing conflict from escalating starts with transparency and clear and honest conversations. So the more you can do upfront, the better. There are tons of systems out there. You can start very simply with Slack or any communication system you use. But the most important thing is to make it part of your culture and of what matters. In terms of system, I would say a search onto of inexpensive systems that can help you with this, including surveys. We'll give you loads and loads of good platforms out there. There's tons, which also will help do the analytics for you. So again, if you need help with that, we can provide links, I'm sure.
Thank you, Valerie. Margaret?
Okay, so firstly, for a head of operations stepping into a mixed team of field staff and engineers, the most important thing you can give them is structure. So simple tools go a long way, like clear role expectations for everyone, a basic decision-making framework, and even like a simple conflict resolution process that they can follow. And you can also run like short alignment session in the first month where everyone shares working style, communication preferences, what they need to be successful, because that creates understanding early and create just reduces friction later. So like, for example, in terms of reducing conflict, you can just have like a one-page kind of like a conflict resolution toolkit, and basically use this model called a 3C model: clarify, consider, and commit. So first, in terms of clarify, what's actually happening. So speak to each person individually. Ask like, what happened from your perspective? What do you need to be successful? What would good resolution look like for you? And then you want to focus on facts and specific examples and not assumptions or emotions. So, engineers and field staff, they often communicate differently. So you want to, if you clarify separately, that will prevent escalation and it will help you uncover the root issue. And then in terms of, the consider, that's basically identifying patterns and shared interests. Like, what's the real issue? Is it miscommunication? Is it expectation? Is it resources? Is it working style? Is it like one-off tension, or is it a recurring pattern? And what does each person actually agree on, And then finally, like, you kind of commit to resolve something together. So bring both parties together and you can just like guide them to agree on what each will do differently each time. Any support or resources they need, and maybe a checkpoint date in a week or two to ensure it's working. So you also don't let it become a debate. You just want to keep the meeting short and focused. And then in terms of preventing conflicts from escalating, I mean, typically just like lightweight feedback system is probably all that you need at this seed stage. So it could be a monthly one-to-one template that the head of operations will use with every team member. And maybe you can also have like a anonymous form for people to raise concerns if they don't feel comfortable speaking directly. But basically, like, if you, like, let's say the head of operations does one-to-one, it could be a very brief one-to-one, just like, what went well for you? What work are you most proud of? What has been frustrating or slowing you down? What support you need from me? Like, is there any tension or misalignment with colleagues I should be aware of? And then just ask them, like, what are your top priorities for the next 2 weeks? Is there anything unclear or blocking you? So that's really all you need, to try to prevent friction from happening. And the goal isn't paperwork. It's just keeping people safe and like giving people safe and predictable spaces to speak up. So.
Thank you very much for that, ladies. Really appreciate it. I think we've got time for one more question. We'll put that question in the chat. If anybody wants to ask the question here on Microsoft Teams, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll give you the mic and then you can introduce yourself and fire away with that question. So I think this is question 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I'm the co-founder of a pre-seed logistics tech startup in Newcastle, where we develop software that optimizes delivery routes for local suppliers. With our entire development team working remotely from different regions, what are some effective ways to foster a sense of unity and collaboration amongst remote team members? Plus, how can we establish performance metrics that suit remote environments, ensuring accountability whilst keeping employees engaged with our company values? You work for a 100% remote company, don't you, Margaret?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So based on what you've seen there and other places, what would you do here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think,
and then we'll go to Valerie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Our entire team is remote at Mixmax, and I think, you want to have regular touch points that have some kind of purpose, not just for the sake of doing them. So we have, well, I know the teams have, not me personally, like a weekly product and engineering sync, where people share progress, blockers, and it's small wins that help everyone feel connected to the mission. You can also run, and I think we're pretty sure we do it. I'm not sure if we do it weekly or every other week, but I know we do this like a demo Fridays where engineers show what they've built that week, or maybe what they've built during this 2-week sprint. So that builds pride, visibility and collaboration, and even like very light cultural rituals help, so maybe like a monthly virtual coffee, or we use Donut on Slack for that, like pairing team members for short problem solving sessions, or rotating ownership of the tech deep dive, just to keep people engaged without adding any unnecessary meetings. And for performance metrics, so I actually don't know specifically what our teams have, but just as a general rule, like remote teams work best when you focus on outcomes, not the hours. So yeah, I would, define like very clear quarterly or monthly goals for each developers. For example, it could be delivering specific features, improving code quality, or reducing bugs, and then you want to track those through like a simple roadmap or sprint board. So, and then you want to combine that with any kind of behavioral expectations tied to your values, maybe communication, reliability, collaboration. So then a regular, one-to-one meeting and like a short structured check-in process that will keep everyone accountable, while also reinforcing your culture, even if the team never works in the same location.
Yeah, I think that all of these would work very nicely, and I've seen them work very effectively too. So not a huge amount to add. Just maybe the going back to your values. I don't know if you worked with a team during COVID as well, and the amount of innovation and new ideas that came up from the teams themselves about what actually worked for them, because we had many teams suddenly working remotely and not having been used to this. I mean, with engineers and generally in tech teams, people are used to working remotely, but it is important to keep those connections. And so I think what I've seen work well at Elder in particular have been the stand-ups, but which were daily. But the team very quickly said, okay, they are great, but we probably can do with every other day rather than daily. So really listening and asking feedback from the team on what actually matters to them. But if you also really understanding what it is that you're finding a solution for. So what problem are you trying to solve there? Are you actually finding some gaps in terms of people embodying your values, or are you finding that you actually can't see it because everybody's remote? So maybe just thinking about what is it that matters to you and then to the team, and then trying to match that with the rituals that work best. And it could be anything from as Margaret was mentioning, performance-based forums, but also culture-based forums. And one way of doing this is obviously looking at the outputs from everyone and the results from everyone's work, which is a bit easier for software teams, but also in terms of values, then embedding that in your forums and your catch-ups. So if you could, for instance, what we did that at Elder, we had some shout outs via Slack and then via our bi-weekly all hands, where we would shout out someone who had and particularly embodied the values of the business that week, or during those 2 weeks. So it kind of helped bring up the performance of the team, but also in how the various team members displayed and embodied those values. So yeah, I think all of these combined, as well as keeping as Margaret mentioned, your performance metrics on, say, Notion or whatever board you use, and keeping track of that should work for you.
Thank you very much, ladies. Try not to risk to repeat everything you've said. I'd say try to treat people like adults. Actually, go even further. It may sound cheesy, but try to treat people like you'd like your mother to be treated if she was in that situation. Number two, people can go a much longer way when they don't feel they're just a number. So, and a good way to give people a sense of belonging is to also make them sweat for it a little bit, i.e., give them some accountability and autonomy. But most importantly, remember, this is your baby, not theirs. So don't expect them to pick up the phone at, I don't know, 1:45 to deal with something that is not a matter of life and death, that can wait for tomorrow morning. With that in mind, we are now at the top of the hour, so perhaps our ladies could give us some quick parting words, and then we'll let them go. Let's start with Margaret and then Valerie, please.
Sure. So, well, thank you all for joining today. I hope that these insights will help you build strong, scalable teams as you grow your startups. And just remember that early hiring and people decisions, they really don't need to be complicated. You just need clarity, consistency, and communication. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out.
And
Thank you.
Yes, Bosch, yeah. And the same from me. I hope this was useful to you. And it seems, interestingly, that there are quite a few common themes there. So if there's even a way for you all to connect with each other, then you can absolutely share tips. I would say the more you can connect with peers and share confidentially and even potentially anonymously with them, the more confident you will be.
Me and my fat thumbs. Thank you very much, ladies. Really appreciate your time and your golden advice today. Thank you to everyone that tuned in, obviously. Those of you on the live streams, if you want your life to become a tad bit more interesting and useful, please join us on Microsoft Teams next time. It's audio only, which means you can tune in from anywhere via any platform or device. We run 6 regular sessions: Mondays talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, Thursdays fundraising, second Friday of each month it's UK startup law, and third Friday of each month it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. They're all available on our site, startup2scaleup.club, and you can obviously register to any session there. Once you're on our site, you'll also find at the top and bottom of our site, there's a WhatsApp icon where you can click and join some amazing groups we have of your fellow founders, investors, operators, of course, our amazing panelists and mentors too. On the other hand, I guess, as far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, hopefully you'll join us tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech Q&A. We've got some amazing product and tech experts who've been there and done it, and they're going to take questions you may have on building your early stage. So please stay tuned. Otherwise, have a great afternoon and God bless you all. Bye for now.
Thank you.